And while there's been a large focus on graduates and getting new entrants into the cybersecurity market, I felt strongly that there was a gap in middle career individuals, people that have got a ton of IP, a ton of experience, a ton of EQ that could easily port into cybersecurity, but is largely being untapped.
This is a Security Weekly production. Security Weekly is a resource of Cyber Risk Alliance.
The Cybersecurity Collaborative, in conjunction with Cyber Reason, is proud to present CISO Stories. Each week, CISO Stories takes a deep dive on security leadership. The Cybersecurity Collaborative is a unique membership community enabling cybersecurity leaders to work together in a trusted environment. To learn more, visit securityweekly.com/CSC.
So, Kerissa Varma is joining me today. Kerissa is the Group CISO for Old Mutual Limited. Kerissa, thank you for joining me. It's great to have you here.
It's absolutely awesome to be here, Sam.
And we've had a chance to work together over the years, but we've really started a passion project recently, hacking into cybersecurity. Could you maybe share a bit? I should be clear, you're the real reason it's happening. I'm in support for the most part, but could you share a bit about what it is and what it is you hope to achieve?
Sure, and I think you're a big support, Sam. So first of all, thank you for that. So hacking into cybersecurity was really born out of this need that we know we don't have currently enough people in cybersecurity. And as our digital agendas grow, this problem is just going to become worse. And while there's been a large focus on graduates and getting new entrants into the cybersecurity market, I felt strongly that there was a gap in middle career individuals, people that have got a ton of IP, a ton of experience, a ton of EQ that could easily port into cybersecurity, but is largely being untapped at the moment. So I called up a couple of friends, and Sam was kind enough to say, I think your crazy idea has some merit. And he joined me together with Chris Nigel and Wolf Richter from Okta and McKinsey, respectively. And we're the founding members of Hacking into Cybersecurity, and we hope that with this initiative, we will help encourage more people from very diverse backgrounds and careers into cybersecurity. So
in some ways, this lines right up with CISO Stories, where we talk about, with people at the end or at a mature point, shall we say, in their CISO journey. And then we say, so how did you get into it? But in this case, we're focusing right in on the get into it and looking for the next generation of security people. Not necessarily CISOs, but the folks that, the reason I backed it, Kerissa, is I passionately believe that this is a human challenge and we need to get the breadth of human experience, not someone who's just stuck to a security track, which is fine to do, but that we're missing a massive opportunity here. So, but it begs the question of your story. How did you get into cyber?
So I have to go very far back in time, Sam. So you're asking questions that lead all the way back to my education. So I'll start a quick story. I got pretty good grades in high school, and as all Indian families will tell you, when you have good grades, you either become a doctor, or you become a lawyer. So I dutifully applied to med school. I got in. I realized, being a doctor is not for me. Greatest respect in the world for doctors, but I just didn't feel like I could do it. And so I got a bursary to study technology in Malaysia for 4 years. I went over for 4 years, studied a specialist degree in software engineering, and then I became convinced I was going to be a developer. So I think I had a couple of split personalities in that early phase of my life. I begged and pleaded to get into development, and the then head of security at the organization that I joined said, "No, you're coming into cyber," and that's how I landed there. And
who said that to you? Was that a professor, somebody professionally? Who said you're coming into cyber? And
so that was actually the person. There was a panel of people interviewing me in the company that had given out the bursary. And he said, no. He was heading up cyber, and he was like, no. I hear you saying development, but you're a cybersecurity person. You're coming into cybersecurity. And he saw something that I couldn't at that stage. So I'm eternally grateful to him, because that's actually how I got in. I've spent my entire career in security. I've done almost everything there is to do in security, and I've worked in almost every industry, banking, transport, government, insurance now. So it's really been, I've worked in almost everything. And I've loved it, and I've never, ever gotten bored. And I think that's just one of the beautiful things about cyber. There's just always something new and exciting and interesting to learn or to do. I haven't looked back. Definitely don't miss med school. 7 years in South Africa. That's pretty harsh.
Wow. Yeah, that's amazing. And of course, we try to pay it forward. And I know that hacking to cybersecurity is almost a way to pay it forward, but it's more than that. You're looking to expand it and to reach people and pull them in who wouldn't otherwise see the space, right?
Yeah.
When did you get the idea for hacking into cybersecurity? When did that occur to you, and how?
So there was a dilemma. I knew that I was personally struggling to find people. The South African market and the African market is just, the resources are not just there. And what was happening was a number of CISOs were just headhunting in each other's pools. And while, that will take you so far, you end up making quite a few enemies, taking people's best people out of their teams, and you're not sustainably solving the problem. On top of that, I think the COVID-19 pandemic had a number of people being displaced and losing their jobs. And so just the number of people that were contacting me on LinkedIn saying, do you have employment opportunities? But their background and career and the experience, was not cyber at all. And my ability to guide them and say, well, this is how you do this, ended up being a case-in-case point. Like I would engage with one person, and then that person would go away and have some thinking and have a conversation, but it wasn't making a big enough impact because the pool of people contacting me was just too huge. And that's where the idea was really born of this two problem areas that, I don't have enough people in cyber, but I've got a ton of people with great IP and experience that are contacting me that are looking for work. How do I actually bridge that gap?
And have you found, but prior to hacking to cybersecurity, did you do mentorship outside the space or let people know about it? Or was it always at the family parties we go, you should really think about cybersecurity? Was there an area that you turned to and you found, hey, it's not just nearly doctors who could make good cyber people? Anyone else you found has a particular affinity to it, or any recruiting grounds you've gone to?
Yes, I think it's been amazing. It's been an amazing journey, Sam. I mean, in my team, and if you ask most CISOs in their teams, there's such a diverse background of people. I mean, I've got an ex-marketing. He studied marketing for years. You know him actually, Sam. You've met him, Craig.
Oh, yeah.
He's got a marketing degree, and his background is all marketing. But he's actually come into cybersecurity to do my awareness campaigns because he understands how people think and what makes people behave in a certain way. I've got ex-military in my team because they understand how to behave in a crisis and how to plan tactically for a critical situation. So I guess it's always been in me that you don't have to have a hardcore cyber person to have a good cyber impact. And so a lot of my recruitment choices over the years, looking back, I've unconsciously done that. And I think it's about bringing that more into the conscious space and having a conversation about how do we expand that. If we continuously look into that pool of, and it's how we write our job specs, right? I mean, we write these job specs with 1 million of technical qualifications, and yes, they're needed. But what we actually need is an aptitude. We need an ability to learn and relearn and unlearn things because the threat is changing so rapidly. Our attackers are changing so rapidly that is actually a more valuable skill than having 1 million certifications, but you can't change the way you adapt and you think. And so that for me is where we need to go. I mean, I think we've sort of unconsciously done it. We need to more consciously make sure that when we recruit and go out in these angles, we're more consciously open-minded about what a security professional looks like.
So let's try and entice a few people who might be listening who aren't dyed-in-the-wool security people. A few questions on that front. Looking back at your past, anything you're particularly proud of that you would hold up and say, hey, this was a really great accomplishment, keeping in mind someone's listening going, I don't know if I could ever get to that point. Is there anything that you highlight as the thing you're most proud of? Because honestly, I believe if you can point to something, that in itself has a sort of the passion behind it, and what you achieve has a certain attraction to it by itself. So anything come to mind?
Yeah, so I think I'm by nature, I am a team builder. That's what I do. I build teams. And the thing I'm most proud of is probably my team. I think we have a fantastic group of individuals that get to work with every day. And we've done some amazing things. I mean, we've won some awards and we've got some great accolades. But the thing I'm most proud of is the people I get to work with every day. And I think, Sam, you would also know this, the culture within security is so amazing. So for those of you that are sitting there going, I don't know if I can do this, actually you can. All you need to do is get a good mentor. Get someone who you can have a conversation with to say, how did you do this? Get a sounding board that knows and believes in you, and can say to you, just give you that smack on the side of the head when you're thinking you can't do it sometimes, and just go, what are you talking about? Obviously you can do this. You're doing it already, and that is so critical. And that's been so critical in my career. Oftentimes when you think, should I actually take this on, or can I take this on? Just having that person that, and it doesn't need to be a cyber person. It just needs to be someone that really believes in you. Just going, you can do this. You can do anything you put your mind on, and it's not difficult because you can achieve it. I think that's so critical.
I once was criticized by a boss for seeing the positive in people too much. And I have to say, whenever I meet someone, I think here's how this person could get there. And very often it's not much. Now, there could be a Dunning-Kruger effect, right? Once you really get good at something, you forget just how hard it was to get there. But most of the building blocks are very attainable. They're just scary to people, especially folks who are technophobes. I never want to say that I don't want somebody with the skills and the attitude. But if I have to choose between the two, attitude matters more, because I've had toxic teams. I've had to get rid of people because they had the wrong attitude. Whereas somebody with the right attitude can always be taught.
Exactly.
So any advice for that young man or woman, or old man or woman, or fill in the blank with whatever the person is who doesn't think I'm a cyber person and I've never considered it, any advice for them who are suddenly, let's just imagine from that they listened this long into this discussion. What would you say to them?
So I would say, if you're thinking about getting into cybersecurity, have a look. There's a wealth of free material out there. I think people, tend to attach themselves to a certification, and a certification has investment. And I've spoken to so many people where they get this big certification and then they actually are still not getting the roles that they want to, or not seeing the career progression that they want to. So what I would say is start out with what is at your fingertips. There's a ton of free material. And I tell this story often. There's one of the people that, she's actually a female in Africa. She's one of the foremost leaders in medical device hacking. In Africa, and she actually worked in the medical technology industry. She wasn't in cyber, and she started off thinking, well, there's something wrong here. Medical devices, they shouldn't be this open. And she started to watch YouTube videos, all free, and she started watching YouTube videos and researching and getting into it. And now, a few years later, or quite a few years later, she's actually one of the leading experts in ethical hacking of these devices. So I think people tend to attach themselves to a certification or a degree or a course or a training module or whatever it is, where for me, it's more important to let your passion drive you. Use the free material out there. Understand what you're passionate about. She was passionate about medical technology and ethical hacking in that space, and had a passion drove her. And that curious and inquisitive mindset is actually more important, and getting the skills and handheld capabilities does a lot more for your career than actually having a piece of paper. There are some great pieces of paper out there, don't get me wrong, many of which I think a lot of us have. And, typically you'll still find a lot of jobs out there going, have your CISP and have this and that. But what I'm saying to you is, if you don't have a ton of money to invest, start with the free material, find your passion, follow your passion. That will get you there.
And you said two very important letters at the beginning. You said EQ. And I'm going to go so far, and you can feel free to pick this apart if you want. I'm going to go so far as to say that one of the biggest gaps that we have is around soft skills, or what are sometimes called power skills: negotiation, presentation, empathy. And that we don't tend to socialize. I think people have this image of a hacker as someone in a hoodie who's sitting and at a keyboard and not associating with human beings. But the attackers are fundamentally taking it. It's called social engineering, right? They take advantage of social weakness. And the biggest problem in security I sometimes describe is a lack of alignment with our businesses. That our businesses think we're hobbyists, that just, we sit and we tinker. Yeah. I believe that many people with those skills don't think that they have it, and yet that's the most critical skill set for us in security. Any thoughts on EQ and on soft skills?
Yeah, absolutely critical. I think if I've had experiences that are really great with people with great EQ and really poor EQ. And the problem with people that need to work on the EQ is that their ability to actually get a business to change course or to change direction or to be able to influence, they tend to have a lot harder job in doing it. So it's so critical to have that sense of self and knowing who you are and what you stand for, and having a high emotional intelligence and knowing the dynamics in the room, and reading your audience, and then being able to position your message in a way that is going to land that message most effectively. So it's absolutely critical. And it's across all areas of cyber, Sam. It's not just at the CISO level. If you're talking about a technical person influencing, so a security ethical hacker influencing a development team, it's an agenda that they need to buy into. So that influence and that EQ comes across in every angle of cyber, and it's definitely needed across all the roles, because we all rely on each other, and that reliance is critical to getting things done.
Yeah, and I want to be really careful we don't alienate some of our audience here. Because I'll share something. Two of the most effective executives I've ever worked with in my career, both were autistic. They were on the autism spectrum. So it wasn't that they didn't have EQ, but I remember one of them took courses in how to relate to people, and he used to hold barbecues. He passionately cared about making a human connection. What matters isn't how good you are in absolute terms, it's that you try. And so if you're out there going, well, I'm the guy, I'm an introvert, or I'm the woman who doesn't want to go to the party, it doesn't matter, but it is a dimension. And I want to say that everyone with the right attitude and approach to the soft skills, not necessarily that you're the best at it, but that you try, is perhaps the most important thing, because there's another form of diversity that we're missing, which is neurodiversity. Right? In our head, we have a picture of what is the cyber person like. And I don't think we're necessarily thinking about, well, how do I get people with different ways of thinking? I had a boss who said once, the opponent's not shy, right? And they've got lots of diversity. How do we ever understand them if we don't have similar matching characteristics or even more breadth? So I hope that rings true. And maybe when we do some more hacking to cybersecurity, we should think about neurodiversity as well a little bit.
And I think, Sam, the other point that people often think is that you need to be an extrovert to be able to influence, and I think that's so flawed. I've worked with many amazing people, all introverts, that have done absolutely fabulous jobs of actually influencing. So it's not personality, it's not acumen, it's not mental diversity. It's actually your ability, exactly like you're saying, to be conscious about it and to actually try and position yourself in a way that makes you the most effective.
Yeah, I used to have a friend who said he was terrible at organization, and I thought, you're the most organized person I know, because what he did was he overcompensated for it. He got structured in his organization in a way that somebody who was naturally good at it wouldn't have done. And I think it might be the same with some introverts. They go, well, this is my weakness, so I'm going to double down. Yeah. And it can be, not only can it be learned, some of them are really fantastic at it. So hopefully this rings true. Any final thoughts on where hacking to cybersecurity is going, or anything that you think we should be doing collectively in the future?
I think probably a call out to all the people hiring out there. I think if we've sparked a little bit of imagination today, that would be a great takeaway from this call, to think about the next time you write a job spec slightly differently, or the next time you interview someone slightly differently. Because I think until we change that mindset, it's going to be very difficult to fill the roles that we have vacant and lying vacant.
I don't want to make work for us, but maybe what we should do is think about how to provide people with templates for that. But maybe that's a subject for our next planning meeting on it. Well, Kerissa, thank you for being here, and I super appreciate it, and I look forward to see all the great things that are going to come from this.
Thank you so much, Sam, for having me on. It's been absolutely fabulous.
Cybereason is the champion for today's defenders, providing an endpoint security platform to prevent, detect, and respond to malicious operations on computers, mobile devices, servers, and the cloud. Cybereason. End cyber attacks from endpoints to the enterprise to everywhere. Learn more at cybereason.com/CISO stories.